Hey musicians, my name is Damien. I hope you're having a good day so far. So in a video I made a couple weeks ago, I talked about how to write music for the piano and I discussed how to write left-hand accompaniment patterns. So in today's video, I want to go into more detail on how to write left-hand accompaniment patterns. So when you've written a chord progression for a piano piece, you might be thinking, what can I do to make the left hand more interesting rather than just playing block chords? Block chords are pretty boring and they don't really bring a piece of music to life, whereas just changing up that left hand pattern a bit, you can turn a simple chord progression into something that sounds a lot better than it actually is. But Damien, I don't even know how to play the piano. Well, that's okay, because I'm going to show you how to make the chord progression more interesting without even knowing how to play the piano. Okay, so I have Ableton open here, and the first thing I want to do is write a melody. So I'll do that and then I'll come back. So now I've written my chord progression and melody. This is what it sounds like. As you can see, the chord progression is pretty boring. It's a simple chord progression, but just using those block chords, it makes it uneventful. What we're going to do, leave the melody as it is, leave the chords as well. We're going to try different things like arpeggios, changing the rhythm and stuff like that to see if we can make the chord progression more exciting. So the first thing I want to try is turning the block chords into arpeggios. So what that means is playing one note after the other of the chord. So you can have arpeggios just going up, or you can have them going up and down, which is what we're going to do. So all you need to do to make arpeggios is use the notes of the chord, which in the first chord we have C, E, G, and then just go up. And then you can go to the next C. Like that. And so we can just write this in Ableton. C, E, G, C, E, and back down. C, G, E. Let's have a listen. So now I'm going to do that for the rest of the chord progression. So now I've turned the block chords into arpeggios like this. This is what it looks like. It just goes up and down and up and down. So you can see it's a lot smoother and it flows a lot better than the block chords because the notes are spread out and it keeps the piece moving as well. So the next thing we're going to try is playing the bass note first and then the chord after it. So that'll sound like this. So all it does, it kind of like prepares you for the chord that's going to happen. So all you need to do is move your block chord to the second beat of the bar, then we put a C in the bottom. Now I'm going to do that for all of the chords. So now I've done that for the left hand. Let's have a listen. So even though it's very similar to having just the block chord, adding just another note on the first beat, having the chord come in on the second beat, just makes it not so straight to the beat. So that's another option you can use for your piece. The next chord pattern we're going to try is a broken chord. It's very similar to an arpeggio, but it's just using the three notes of the chord. So that's what it sounds like. With the C major chord we have C, E and G, and we're just playing C, E, G, E, C, E, G, E. And then we're doing the exact same thing for each of the other chords with their own notes. So now I'm going to put that into Ableton. Now I've changed all of the chords into broken chords. This is what they look like. And this is what it sounds like. So similar to the arpeggios, it really keeps the piece moving. I think we can say that just breaking up the chord instead of just playing the block chord makes it a bit more interesting. So it's really not that hard to just try something a bit different from a block chord to make it a bit more interesting. The next type of pattern we're going to try is a thing called an Alberti bass, and this is a very popular classical period accompaniment. So the definition of an Alberti bass is a repeated accompaniment figure common in 18th century keyboard music that usually consists of the notes of a triad played in steady 8th or 16th notes in the order lowest, highest, middle, highest. So what does that mean? So if we play the C major chord in our Alberti bass, we're playing the lowest note, then the highest, then the middle, and then the highest again. And we can also use 16th notes. You can either use the 8th notes or 16th notes depending on what you want to go for. I'm going to do that now to this chord progression. So this is what it sounds like with the melody. So I think this kind of accompaniment pattern would work better with a more classical melody. But now let's just hear it with the 16th notes. Okay, and this is what it turned out like. So it sounds pretty crazy. So something like that is difficult to play on the piano, but if you're not having it performed, it doesn't really matter. Again, this doesn't really work with this kind of melody, but something with the classical melody, I think it would work well there. Alright, so now the last thing I want to talk about today is using rhythm in the accompaniment. So with rhythm, there's an endless amount of possibilities that are available. And now we can also combine all the other techniques that we've learned, or we can just use the block chords to use a rhythm. Rather than just having the block chord be played on the first beat, just try playing it maybe on every beat. So let's just try that with the melody. So maybe we can try doing it every quarter note. So even though it's still on the beat, keeps the piece moving a bit more. So now we could try using the bass note and the chord, but adding a rhythm to each of those elements. So something else we can do with the rhythm is take the arpeggio and add a little bit of rhythm to that. Or we can even just use the block chord and add some more interesting rhythm to that. So I hope that gives you a few ideas of some rhythms you can add to your left-hand accompaniment. So what I want you to try is just experiment with all of these different elements and try putting some together and seeing what happens. So with all these different accompaniment styles, we can try something like this. So that's the same chord progression that we had here. And just by adding some different elements and combining them all together, we can create something that is so much more interesting and makes the melody just sound a lot better. So I hope you liked the video today, and I hope that you found it useful learning about all the different types of accompaniment patterns that you can use for your piano piece or whatever song you're writing. Now if you liked the video, don't forget to leave a thumbs up and hit subscribe if you want. Anyway, that's it for today, so thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video. See ya!